Yes, but there's a catch. Today, we're going to do daily tasks from file management, writing, browsing, programming, gaming, and so many more in Windows 11. And let's see if MS-DOS can replicate each of the tasks. But a lot of people actually going to question to me, why MS-DOS? MS-DOS is such an old operating system. The first version dates back to 1981. How can it do such things? Well, actually, it can do such things. But at this time, we're not gonna count FreeDOS because FreeDOS is a free derivative for MS-DOS. It is more recent and it is not truly Microsoft Disk operating system. So we're going to do that with just MS-DOS. So in order to do this, I'm going to use 86box, but why again? Well, VMware and VirtualBox are like the famous emulator for virtual machines, but those are hypervisors, giving all resources from the main machine to the virtual machine, so ruins the aesthetic. What about DOSBox? Well, sure, but it isn't truly MS-DOS. It is reporting MS-DOS. So I'm going to use 86box, which a lot of people actually saying that it is a one-to-one experience to the real PC. So, alright, I'm using WinBox for 86box, and even though it is discontinued, but the program is still decent and it is still usable for the VirtualBox-esque VM manager. So, in this case with the wizard, I'm going to choose Intel Pentium PC1 PCI based system, according to what people told me, such as OpenBrain 502R, and also people at 86box Discord server. I've kept anything next as it is because I want to configure it after the wizard, except the 2GB IDE hard disk. Alright, so going to settings by changing from socket 7 dual voltage to single voltage with Intel Advanced ADX board and using Pentium 1 133MHz video display to S3 Trio 64V Plus PCI version, the mouse input to Microsoft Serial Mouse, the sound to Sound Blaster 16 non-PNP ISA 16 version, the network adapter to Novell NE2000 ISA 16 version with SLIRP mode. Alright, so finally starting the machine and time to set up the BIOS and then inserting the MS-DOS 6.22 floppy disk. Oh my gosh, it is quite nerve-wracking to see the installation merely as if it is on a real 1995-esque machine. Alright, so doing the disk space thingy, 5 minutes and 8.30 seconds later, it's finally going to install MS-DOS into the floppy disk. 4 minutes, 25 seconds, and 3 floppy disks later, it finally installed, and now I can finally reboot into MS-DOS 6.22. So after booted and typing WinVer, it is now officially an MS-DOS computer. Alright, quickly after installing MS-DOS, I decided to install 3 drivers: the CD-ROM driver, the mouse driver, and a Sound Blaster 16 driver for MS-DOS in order to run programs optimally. Alright, so the first one is going to be the MS-DOS CD support with MSCDEX by using one floppy disk. Alright, so it finally installs the CD driver for MS-DOS as inserting the folder as CD containing all programs for this challenge, and I was stupid to not reboot because, well, the driver won't gonna be loaded until the next reboot. What a stupid I am. Alright, so after rebooting and forgetting to eject the floppy disks, MS-DOS is trying to recognize the CD-ROM, and thankfully it finally did. So I quickly go into D drive and into the drive folder, which is driver, the folder number 0. Alright, installing the mouse driver is very easy as just copying the file into any folder in C that you want. So that's quite easy, right? Next one is Sound Blaster 16, which is also another easy driver to install, as just pressing enter multiple times and et voila, tu es un computer personnel cool. Yeah, I'm speaking French. I'm also learning French. Alright, so setting up the driver to be loaded on startup with autoexec.bat or .bat, and really struggling to click exit there because, well, yeah, because mouse. I'm not really getting used to using mouse on MS-DOS. Alright, rebooting, and we are ready to do the challenge. Can MS-DOS 6.22 from 1994 replace Windows 11 from 2022? So I'm using Windows 11 22H2, build 22000 621.1 vanilla using Windows 2 Go on SanDisk Crucible 32GB USB 2.0. So things will be quite slower as it should be. So do note that this specification is not really a matter, because I just set up my real machine and the virtual machine as what it is supposed to work, but I only want to do this with two different specifications just to see if the machine or the operating system capable or not to achieve the tasks. Alright, so first up, file or directory navigation and management. So the navigation and management in Windows 11 is very easy to reach and use with the File Explorer. You can right click and choose new folder to create a new folder, or at the top toolbar, double clicking a folder to open a folder, deleting by clicking the delete icon at the top toolbar, and it's easy as heck. Well, as for MS-DOS, the simplest you can do is with cd, md, and rd command, each for changing, creating, and removing directory respectively. You can use the del command to remove, type to preview the file, copy to copy, and move to move. Well, you can use a more advanced such as MS-DOS Shell from Microsoft to get a more advanced file and directory with quite usable and informative interface. There are other alternatives such as Nota and Commander, and more recently WinWorldPC, but it needs long file name support, which MS-DOS currently doesn't support. Task number 1 checked, and task number 2, word processing. Notepad is the most reliable, simple word processing Windows 11 with its simple feature and appearance. For advanced word processing, the pre-installed that came with Windows is WordPad. Although it is not as advanced as the current word processor, at least for its features and function, WordPad is still decent. For other media, we have many examples such as OpenOffice Write, LibreOffice Write, Microsoft Word, WPS Office, and so many others, but in this case, we will try AbiWord, which is supposed to be quite similar to Microsoft Word. Simple setup by double-clicking the file, click next, 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 and wait until it finishes copying files and stuff, and it finishes finally. So AbiWord is quite easy to use, and with its simple interface, you can write documents in here with efficient and ease. Well, what about MS-DOS? For simple word processing, MS-DOS already has its own named MS-DOS editor, or named as edit.com. You can summon it by just typing edit or edit with the file name next to it. It has minimum feature of file editor because it's not limited to just txt file. So that's it. For advanced word processing though, I tested 3 programs: WordStar, WordPerfect, and Microsoft Word. WordStar with 20 floppy disks. Well, boy, there are so many floppy disks right there. Alright, trying to install with winstall, and I noticed that I'm using the wrong floppy disk drive type. These are using 5.25 360k disks, while the current one is 3.5 1.44 megabytes. So I added the 5.25 one into the second floppy drive and configured it into the BIOS. And once again, forgetting to eject any non-bootable floppy disks before rebooting. Well, in going to the breed drive and an error with wssetup.ovr. Well, there's the first red sign right there. Confused by this confusing menu that doesn't have any install WordStar option, so well, I just click any options there, and turns out errors and stuff. And well, at the end of the day, it didn't found a/ws.exe. I'm really confused at this time. So yeah, I just see the second floppy drive and setting the only one as 5.25 360k one. Well, I'm rebooting it again, and the computer spits failure to load B drive because, well, it doesn't exist. So by bypassing it, A drive again and wsinstall.exe, and now I notice that it requires the program disk into drive A. Well, since my digital copy didn't have any naming, well, I did the stupidest thing that I have ever imagined. Load all 20 of them and seeing if one of the many is matched. Alright, so yeah, look at that. Yeah, I'm very stupid. And well, while I'm loading and unloading the image, look at that long part of the file. And after giving up the 20 of them, not a single one is the correct program disks. Alright, so I'm rebooting and the A drive again, and I noticed that there's wssetup.exe, and I was thinking, Was I wrong for the whole time? Well, turns out, yeah. Alright, so I'm executing like the WS setup to the XE, and dang it, I should have known that since the start. Yeah, this shows how stupid I am. Alright, so I'm entering the serial number, selecting all things on the page 1 because I don't really care what about on the page 2. And well, 11 discs later, finally I can use WordStar. So running WordStar, and boy, I made a mistake on choosing 50 lines because text looks so squashed up in there. Alright, so the interface is what a Microsoft Office 2007 or later looks like, with quote-unquote ribbon at the top of the quick action. But in this one, things are very compressed. Alright, so due to the hardware limitation, which apparently is not, you can't make the text on the screen bold, italic, or underlined. But you get rather a marking to start and end a style, such as this one for bold, this one for italic, and this one for underlined. Well, after all this, I just ending my insanity with this by saving the file. Alright, so next up, WordPerfect, which surprisingly is still around today with WordPerfect Office 2021. Wow. Alright, so once again, having to change the floppy drive type to the famous 3.5 1.44 megabyte is what the disk is. So with install to the XE clearly says it, and not really totally confusing at all. It is very understandable setup. 13 floppy disks later, it finally attached. And in my opinion, the UI is what I expect from word processing for MS-DOS. Simple outside, but complex inside. So, unlike WordStar, WordPerfect uses the smart text coloring to differentiate font style or format. Either WordStar is doing that just because it doesn't support non-monochrome display, or hasn't fed any display driver, or they are doing that for real and intentionally. Alright, so saving the file to only C/WP docs is quite annoying actually, but yeah, nonetheless, the file saving is simple with selection to save to WordStar and also Microsoft Word document, because it is normal for that era because people are using different type of word processing. But I think still to this day, word processors are still offering that kind of type. Alright, so next up, Microsoft Word. Alright, so with it set up to the XE, with thoroughly over questioning configurations, 2 disks later, after typing my full name, the installation halted because of write protect error writing drive A, because I set the floppy disk to write protected. Yeah, once again, my stupidity turned to level 5 or level 4. Alright, so after inserting the floppy disks without the write protection, I can type Word to summon the application. Well, since I chose graphics mode, I got an actual cursor in here. Well, that's quite a good investment. Alright, so Microsoft Word is a significant win over the other two because, well, in this time, bold, italic, and underline, which is the font style, is displayed correctly. What you see is what you get with a wig. So, but, well, the thing is, you still can't see the font size in here because this is actually for hardware limitation or display limitation. Task number 2, checked. Number 3, calculation. Windows 11 came with calculator by default. It is both simple and scientific calculation, and it is not confusing to use. But MS-DOS, in the other hand, didn't have calculator installed by default. You either got 3 options. 1, program it yourself. 2, buy a program to just do calculation. Or the last one, ask your friend to share the calculator program, the shareware version by the way. And since we are living in nowadays era, but I'm going to simulate the number 2, which is buy a program to just do calculation. But in this modern era with all images in the Internet Archive or WinWorldPC, number 3 is not really an option now. So I could have just used number 2. Well, I'm using number 2 now. Alright, so for simple calculation, we got DiskCalc, which function as a simple calculator as you would expect from a calculator. And to be honest, that's not bad calculator, but it is decent for MS-DOS. And it has cursor too, which is a bonus point. And for scientific calculation, there is LS Strip 1.00 Plus Shareware Edition. Alright, so I'm opening it, and even though it is confusing at first glance, but if you get used to it, this is going to be a big advantages over like the default desk calc one. Alright, so task number 3, checked. Number 4, time and date. Windows 11 has its own clock and calendar application by default, but wait, clock needs an update? Why is everything has to be connected to internet by now? Oh, I should have not connected to the internet because I don't want like this as an update. Alright, so mother hell, it needs you to sign into a Microsoft account? No thank you. Alright, so in a clock app, not only you can see what time is it, but you can add world clock in different area to know what time it is in different parts of the world. Well, that's quite a plus point. For the calendar app, well, okay, it needs an account for zillions time. No, I don't want that. Just take me straight to the calendar. Alright, so you can see the calendar which displays correctly in the monthly view. For the quick action, you can also look quickly to the right bottom corner of the screen for time and date, which is one of the easiest one. But for MS-DOS, to display date and time, you can type date and time in a command prompt. But to display it graphically and intuitively, well, for calendar there is a calendar by Raymond T. Kaya from 1994. The 24-hour clock is in the top right corner of the screen and as a half of the year displayed on the screen. And by the way, holidays in the US is also included here, such as Thanksgiving, July 4th, etc. So task number 4, checked. Task number 5, display and customization. In Windows 11, we all know by right-clicking the mouse and click personalize, and it will show you options on background. Either you can use the preloaded themes or use custom background. Well, in this case, I want to use a background from Windows 7, which is nice. Alright, so we are talking about customizing a background or foreground color. DOS didn't have that option. Or is it? By including ANSI.c's driver, inserting a prompt command with this mark that shows a state of the text, the background, the foreground color with confusing stuff. And this time, I decided to run it on startup. And after some customization later, I decided to go with red text on a black background. Whilst the way to do so is, well, confusing and such a hassle, but the result is not disappointing for me. So task number 5, checked. Sketch or illustration. In Windows 11, you can use the pre-installed Microsoft Paint. It has many features as a simple drawing program, and I actually quite enjoy using this program. But for a more advanced one, I have Paint.net. Well, the thing is, you have to connect to the internet to install it. Yeah, yet another Internet of Things stuff. So the first time failed, but the second time a success. Although it's a bit confusing, but it's still decently usable. And by looking at it, this is my masterpiece. Alright, so for MS-DOS, I have 4 softwares available for these. PC Paint, straight installation, but uncrunching, unsquashing, and unsquishing. Oh, I'm dying. Alright, so let's run the program. It lets me choose which video mode, but some of those aren't available for this system. Sad thong. Also, Mouse System Corporation. What a funny corporation name. Alright, so I got 800 by 600 with 16 colors. Sure, and I enjoyed splashing and painting in here, right? No, I want more. Z-Soft Paintbrush. With only 3 discs, even though it's a little confusing at first, but it's a straightforward setup. The only other problems while using this software is the video mode. There are 366 video mode. I'm not sure all of them are supported in here. Maybe just some nitpicks. Alright, so we're going to do rush roulette moment on which video mode is the right one for this. Video 7 VRAM VGA 800 by 600 256 colors? No. Video 7 Fast Write VGA 640 by 480 256 colors? No. IBM PS2 8514A 640 by 480 256 colors? No. Standard VGA 640 by 480 16 colors? Yes. Oh my goodness, why? Alright, so it asks me for the file name first, and then the size. And, well, it is quite decent for me. Although, yeah, I'm quite like seeing these as my own masterpiece, and this is my own creative drawing. Next up, Microsoft Paintbrush, changing the floppy disk drive type and running the setup. Since this version is actually the soft paintbrush after Microsoft acquired it, so the only difference to this version is the video mode, which is more compact with only 17 modes. Oh my goodness, thank goodness it is only compact from the bazillions to just 17. Alright, so as for the program, no significant changes to the program whatsoever. But I want more! Deluxe Paint. I think this is the best out of the four. Number 1, it's portable. 2, finally high resolution and 256 color support. And 3, reach of features. Well, my only confusion with the program is it only loads a small portion of canvas at one time. So when I like painting and stuff, like why it is just only a small portion. So when I click page view, now I see why. Alright, so tasks number 6 checked. Number 7, image viewing. In Windows 11, you can just double click in the file and it was supposed to display. Well, why it isn't displayed? Alright, let's time to restart the Explorer. Windows 11 just being Windows 11 with all those slowness and unsupported hardware stuff. We're just gonna move on. Alright, so it now finally displays the file correctly. So this is quite like standard for Windows 11. MS-DOS don't have picture viewer by default or image viewer, but I managed to find a few software for image viewing. 1. PictView. It supports all file types available: PIC, PCX, BMP, and JPG. It also supports True Color, which is a very plus point. PixView only supports JPG and supports True Color, which is still very good. But the last one is SuperVGA Image Viewer. It displays BMP and PCX file, but it shows nothing but makes the screen like darker for the application. Weird. Well, nonetheless, still passed the test. Task number 7 checked. Gaming. Well, as for gaming, I have 3 games. Well, the 3 category: simple, advanced, and intermediate. For simple, I got Microsoft Solitaire Collection, which is a simple card game for Windows, established since 1990. But oh my goodness, Solitaire needs an update too. Oh my goodness. and the progress bar finished at 80%. Oh my goodness, what a weird Windows. Alright, so nonetheless, it is still playable, and as you can see, I played the Solitaire just fine. Well, Spider Solitaire technically. Alright, for advanced one, Extreme Races is one of my option. Well, I was quite confused when it automatically changed the resolution, worrying if that like screwed up my recording, like the OBS, but thankfully no, it is still run just fine. And yeah, it's running fine, no lag, 3D looks clean and very playable. For advanced, I have no other than Back to the Future, the game. Although in the recording it lags very hardly, it is not even 1 frame per second, but if you see my phone recording on a screen, it runs perfectly with the average about 25 frames per second. I can even see Marty and Doc right there.
Notebook.
Alright, so what about MS-DOS? Well, for simple, I got Tetris, which runs very great. Nothing goes wrong whatsoever, unless the controller difference to the modern Tetris. Well, that doesn't mean the case. Alright, for advanced, I got Theme Hospital. Even though it requires CD-ROM and contains big files, the gameplay uses isometric view, which is not supposed to be that really demanding. The only more advanced usage in this is a full motion video intro, which is quite sick for about 1990s. But aside from that, it's still very well and uninterrupted gameplay. Lastly, for intermediate, none other than Doom. It uses CD for installation and it runs perfectly with the 3D engine. Well, my only catch is the sound feels quite double each time. The controller with keyboard is quite responsive and the graphic is undoubtedly the best. I can finish even one stage with one take. Alright, so task number 8 checked. What about the next one? Multimedia Playback. In Windows 11, everything can be played with Media Player, either the recent one or the legacy, whether it's MP3, MIDI, WAV, MPG, and AVI. Alright, so what about MS-DOS? Playing MIDI with DOS-MID is great, but yeah, either I'm stupid to not configure MIDI stuff into DOS very carefully, or my VM being, well, just a VM. For MP3, first up, DOSAMP, the DOS version of Winamp. I'm sure you know what Winamp is, so this is the DOS version of it. And after a simple installation by typing DOSAMP and the name of the file, it runs as what it runs on DOS machine. Well, you can't seek through the file like through the music, like from 0 second to 15 seconds, but you can pause it. It is still great. But what about other software? Will PxPlay? Yeah, for an unknown reason it plays the file in slow motion. It play less than 100% speed. If it's for the hardware limitation, I think no. Check out the other one with QuickView Pro. Even though I have to look for the Sound Blaster 16 driver for this program separately, but the file would play still fine. What about WAV, MPxPlay, and QuickView? QuickView plays the file just fine, but MPxPlay? Once again, it plays in less than 100% speed. And what about the other challenging one? Video Playback. QuickView Pro did play AVI file just fine, but my only issue is
now appearing
why
for the
is
first
only
time
audio playing in there? That's a weird situation. Well, my only other option that I can use is XDC Player, which technically isn't a video player but rather an animation player. XDV file contains instruction on what pixel is located in each current time. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. This is Windows 11 playing Big Bug Bunny. And this is how XDC Play plays the Big Bug Bunny. Yeah, still monochrome because DOS. And I remember something. Once a people said, quote unquote, if there's two colors, there's bad apple. Well, yeah. See, this is Windows 11 playing bad apple. In MS-DOS, with 8088 Domination Party version, it plays bad apple. Well, even though once again it played at less than 100% speed. So, for tasks number 9, exclamation mark. Next one, programming. In Windows 11, no IDE or Integrated Development Environment is installed by default, but you can install Visual Studio Code, languages installed separately. To do this, you can program and compile your code right in here, even though as what is displayed, due to running via USB, it is very slow to even download the language extension. Well, for MS-DOS, as someone who is moderate to know VB.NET code, QBasic is a great start. It is like Basic is like a grandfather of VB.NET. Well, at first, I'm still quite difficult to program in QBasic, but after the analogy to VB.NET, I finally can do a simple program in QBasic. Now comes the real sense of programming, with Boolean C++. With 15 disks, you can taste the true hassle of programming in the olden days. After a quick reading through manual and some random guesses, I finally compiled my own hello world in C++. So, for tasks number 10, checked. Internet browsing. Windows 11 came up with Microsoft Edge installed by default. You can browse through web pages and using social media like Mastodon in a browser. Rip Twitter. So what about MS-DOS? Arachne is the most recent web browser for MS-DOS. It's easy to install, but rather quite hard to set up, because after multiple times I set up the browser, turns out I still cannot browse the net. Well, after giving up, I looked up into YouTube, and I noticed that in the autoexec.bat, the driver hadn't assigned the IR key and port of the network adapter, which once again shows how stupid I am. Alright, so after setting it up, still no internet. Upon further looking at the VM back-to-back, my stupidity turned to 11 because I set the wrong IR key. Instead of 10, I set up to 3, just like in YouTube video. Yeah, yeah. This is truly my stupidity turned into 11. Alright, so after that, I can finally go to internet with Arachne. Web pages aren't loading in a short time because I kid you not, it is very long until one point, well, I just stopped load. Yeah, I just give up and stop the load and move on by. For task number 11, exclamation mark. Graphical user interface. The last one. With Windows 11, well, no question for that. You already use GUI in Windows. But after we've done many things to MS-DOS, this one, let's escape from this command line madness by installing the GUI. Well, the first one is Gem by Digital Research. The installation is quite straightforward actually, even though you have to choose one of the 9 video mode and having to choose one of the 9 printers. That's nothing to the next one. By having to change between the disks, forth and back, and mouse.com break, and back again, and .com files break. Yeah, quite confusing. But when I type gem after it has been installed, the feel inside my head to see graphical user interface is very relieving. But I want more. Breadbox Ensemble. With just one CD, easy to follow setup, and a few drivers setup, the glory of graphical user interface is about to be at its peak with a mouse icon taskbar just like Windows 11. But wait, I can use True Color and 800 by 600? Why not? Now, the real deal is in here with heaps of applications and also multitasking. And by the way, just look at that great desktop background. That is a very cute background for MS-DOS machine. Well, after all this, even though MS-DOS 6.22 is already 28 years old at this point in time in 2022, after I sneaking through MS-DOS, tweaking at it and looking at any programs, I can simply conclude that the potential advantage that we can utilize is still a few steps to the peak mountain. So, can MS-DOS replace Windows 11? Well, as I said in the beginning, yes, but there is a catch. I'll see you in the next video of Everything Windows. See ya!